This is the Volvo Ocean Race, the story of a 45-year obsession, sailing's iconic race around the world, the ultimate test of a team, and the place where elite sport meets human adventure. With up to 10 sailors packed into 65 feet of carbon fibre for weeks on end, in a race that lasts almost 9 months, it's an adventure that borders on a psychological experiment. The Volvo Ocean 65 yachts they race in are strictly one design, identical in every important respect. So the only difference in performance comes from the skill, dedication, and teamwork of the crew. With no prize money at stake, just the chance to see their names engraved on the trophy and join the elite few who can say they did it. Lined up in the dock in Alicante, Spain, 7 teams prepare to take on each other and the toughest ocean conditions in the world. Within the fleet, 4 have returned from the last edition hungry for more, their eyes fixed firmly on the trophy that eluded them last time. Mafre, led by Xavi Fernandez, is perceived as one of the favourites. They hope to be the first Spanish team ever to win the Volvo Ocean Race. Dongfeng Race Team is led by the same skipper as in the last edition, Charles Codrelia. On the podium last time, they have returned stronger and more determined. Vestas are back with a new partner, 11th Hour Racing, with Charlie Enright and Mark Towell heading up the team after their first attempt last time around on Alvi Medica. And chasing his dream for 3 decades, Bauer Becking couldn't resist his 8th attempt to try and win the race, again with Team Brunel. New to the Volvo Ocean Race this time are Axel Nobel, the second Dutch team in this edition, in charge, Simeon Tienpoint. Turn the Tide on Plastic is headed up by the only female skipper in the entire fleet, Dee Kafari. And it's the wild card of Sun Hun Kai Scallywag led by David Witt, who completes the lineup. Achieving victory in the Volvo Ocean Race will mean racing 45,000 miles over 11 legs, taking in 12 host cities across 6 continents. The route is a throwback to the early years of the race, with long weeks spent in the remote and vast Southern Ocean, where the waters maraud around the bottom of the planet with winds as strong as 70 knots. It will be one of the toughest races for decades, and with months of preparation, it's finally time for the teams to face each other on the racetrack.
The preparation towards the race is even harder than the race itself. I think sometimes we are willing to start a race so we can leave so many things behind, and now it's just racing and sailing.
To get a team on the start line in this race is the biggest achievement of the lot, right? So I'm looking forward to the gun going and just getting out there and getting on with it.
Once you're out there and you're fighting with your team for one thing, and that is to win the leg. We have to keep the boat going, we have to keep each other going, and that's a good feeling of freedom.
When you start the first leg, it's liberating. You know, it's what you've been waiting to do.
You're having a lot of obligations like sponsors, press. The sailing, I think, is always the easy part. Keeping all the people safe, keep the boat in one piece, and then try the moments as well to really enjoy it, because there are moments where it is just fantastic. And I think that's still always winning from all the bad moments what you have.
During the preparation, you're always thinking what I can do to be better. I can work more, I can do more, I need to be faster. I know that the pressure is going to increase until the start of the race. And when the race starts, okay, the pressure will go away. Now we are in action. Now we are playing the game. Stop thinking, just act.
So the stress is really high, but you do get to that start line to go offshore, and it's almost a relief. You can get on with what you're there to do. Sail hard. When you're not sailing hard, you eat, you drink, you sleep, you get up and you do it all again.
The gun is gone, and that is a great start. This is it, 7 polished professional teams, 8 months of relentless racing, 12 cities, pushing every inch to win, over 11 legs in brutal conditions.
Holy, that was intense.
Pretty hectic start. Loads and loads of spectator boats. It's great to see the fans out there, but it certainly makes things a bit more hectic for us.
It was the scariest thing I've ever done. At the leaving mark, there was just a wall of boats with nowhere to go, so hopefully that'll change next stopover.
It's good to finally get started, and the first night of the first leg of the Volvo.
Leg 1 will see the fleet head east from Alicante, out through the Strait of Gibraltar, down to Porto Santo, just off the island of Madeira, and back to the finish line in Lisbon, Portugal, a relatively short 1,450 nautical miles. For the first 12 hours, it was a drag race through the Mediterranean with around 5 nautical miles separating the fleet, until Vestas 11th Hour Racing made a move and split from the pack and headed inshore. They now led.
I think the more we commit to it, the better it'll get.
Team Axo Nobel were close on their heels and in second spot. For the Dutch team, it was a great result this early in the race, considering they started the leg on the back foot. After a series of controversial changes to the skipper in the weeks leading up to the start, it was Simeon Team Point who finally took control just hours before docking out. However, 3 of the most experienced crew decided not to race to Lisbon. This left Team Point having to find additional last-minute crew. He ended up with just 2 replacements, and they had almost 0 hours racing a Volvo Ocean 65.
We've been put in a position where we're on the back foot, and I'm wearing someone else's clothes, and I've got my old pair of trainers on, which isn't working very well. But this bunch of guys, young bunch, we're hungry.
Team Point had the minimum he could race with, but still had a handful of his original crew, including an early signing, the daughter of Brazilian sailing legend Torben Grail.
I think one of the big sailor talents on my crew is Martine Grill. I think she has really proven herself in Olympic sailing with a gold medal last time. And I think she is quite unique, growing up in a family. They have really proven in their life, they can sail on any boat in any competition and do very well. And I think, if you grew up in a family like that, it's almost in your DNA.
I mean, it's always been something quite big in my life because my dad did 2 editions and they were both very successful editions. Kent and I did have the best Bible in the world for Volvo Ocean Race. What my dad did is not going to make me win anything. You got to put effort in for everything, and it's not going to come for free. An Olympic campaign is small boats, and at the end of the day, it's pretty intense racing. And now what I'm taking on in this trip around the world, it's a bit more rough. I'm really cool to be part of this and this group of young guys coming in this class.
Both Vestas 11th Hour Racing and Team Axo Nobel continued to gain more ground on the rest of the fleet as they headed towards the Strait of Gibraltar. The 5 trailing boats all fighting to get closer to the leading 2. But for Team Brunel, just maintaining a good boat speed was a problem. They came to a standstill with fears of debris on their keel or rudders.
Clear! Clear! We're just back down. We've been quite slow for the last 12 hours, so I just had to jump over and do it back down to make sure that there was nothing stuck on there. When I jumped in the water, we're already going backwards, so if there was anything on there, it already fell off, but nothing to report.
It was early days in this short leg to Lisbon, but getting a good start is so important, especially if you're used to being at the front of the pack. And Bauer Becking and his crew were not the only team feeling the pain.
For sure, it's important to show at the first leg that you are a strong team, because the psychological aspect is very important, and that's what we proved, I think, last time by being leading very quickly. It's important at the beginning and to show that you are here and you will be strong.
We are not really fast compared to our compared to the other boats, so it's quite difficult, and also we sail very bad, so everything is good for us to have, for the moment, a very bad result.
Dongfeng Race Team were the first team to get delivery of their boat and had spent the most time on the water training, and they were in last place.
Sure, we are disappointed. We lost the first night, then we managed to come back in the strong wind, and then we lost again. Not good decision, probably. We did some mistake, of course.
Holding on to third spot, the Spanish team of Mafre are other strong contenders within the fleet. They'd left their home fans in Alicante and were hungry for victory, but not just as a team, but as a nation.
The only reason why we do this race is to win it. And I'm surprised how much people know about the boats, about the sailors, about the whole race. And it's a very good thing that people from your country know the race and know about sailing.
We have won a lot of gold medals, world championships, in sailing in all the classes, but never the Volvo Ocean Race. So I think could be this time when we succeed. If we finally are able to win, it will be a dream for all of us, for me of course, and for the Spanish sailing world.
As the fleet prepared to exit the Mediterranean, the sailing conditions were epic. It's what all the crews had trained for and what the boats were built for. Vestas 11th Hour Racing still led.
Once we get past the headland up here, that's when things are going to get busy for the next few hours. Obviously the straight gets quite narrow, and then also the wind's going to build a lot, probably 30 to 35 knots. It's going to be an exciting few hours, but we just got to make sure we get through in good shape.
Team AkzoNobel continued in second, but coming into the Strait of Gibraltar less than 5 miles separated third from 7th place. There was plenty to play for. Day 2 on the first leg of the Volvo Ocean Race from Alicante, Spain to Lisbon in Portugal. The entire fleet had made it through the Strait of Gibraltar, just an 8-mile gap and one of the busiest stretches of water in the world. Heading towards the Atlantic, the wind strengthened, and all the teams entered an acceleration zone with wind speeds in excess of 30 knots. Less than 40 miles separated leaders Vestas 11th Hour Racing from last place Team Brunel. The Dutch team, despite their pedigree and high expectations, were having more problems with debris on their rudders.
Try to veer away if you can. Try to move the rudder on that way. It's almost gone. Gone. Clear.
We're still in the acceleration corridor coming out of Gibraltar, so we're making life a little bit easier for ourselves by going out to where it's a little bit quieter before we jibe, and then we come back into the pressure. We've just gained a little bit back on Scallywag, who've just crossed in front of us, so it's kind of nice to be in the mix while it's such full-on conditions.
And Team AkzoNobel also sailed in a more conservative manner. It cost them their second spot. Mafre's more polished and race-hardened crew staying in the pressure with a more aggressive sail setup.
Going okay. We've got a little bit of gain on Vestas and a slight loss on the guys behind us, but they're not quite into this new breeze yet, so we'll see how we go.
Heading up the last 4 boats was Sunhunkai Scallywag. They were pushing hard, and skipper David Witt was keen not to drop back anymore.
Everyone up. Moat on board. Joe one up. You got the harried around, Nipper? Okay, on the pumps. Come on, let's go. Oh, the pins come out of the furling unit under load and the sails dropped in them. I don't know how. But we've recovered really nicely. Could have cost us 3 spots just then. Boys did a good job, boys and girls.
Still trailing behind, pre-race favourites Dongfeng Race Team were desperate to improve their performance.
A lot of work to do yet. It's looking very difficult for any opportunities to arise for us to get back into the lead group again.
So we are in a group of 4. Unfortunately, the 4 last boat. The 3 boats are far ahead. So we have to fight to lead this group.
And also at the back of the fleet, Turn the Tide on Plastic were vying to improve their position.
So We are just under 200 miles from Porto Santo, the island we have to turn around. Our competitors are still in sight. We have Brunel and Dongfeng, and on the horizon we've got Scallywag. We've pretty much been together since Gibraltar. Further to the south we've got Akzo Nobel, haven't seen them. Down the track, making really good ground, is Vestas, and further to the west is Mapfre. So I guess we're all going to converge on this turning point, and we'll see who comes out and how far behind we all are.
En route to Porto Santo, and the race organisers announced a course change. It would see the fleet head out to a virtual waypoint in the Atlantic before the last leg into Lisbon and the finish. Team Akzo Nobel, now in third spot, were chasing leaders Vestas 11th Hour Racing and Mapfre. Spirits were still high.
Very early this morning we rounded Porto Santos. A little bit handicapped by the situation and also a sailor short on the boat. You know, that can give you a bit of a disadvantage. We're holding up well and everyone's giving everything. At the moment I couldn't have wished me a better crew than this one. Only battle hopefully for the podium.
Within the fleet, separate battles started to emerge, and it was Team Brunel and Turn the Tide on Plastic who were determined not to be last. Despite their experience, Bauer-Becking and his crew continued to struggle. As all the fleet headed north, Dongfeng race team started to pull away from the trailing group of four that they had been with for nearly all the race. Their time training on the water and superior boat speed finally coming into play.
You know, everyone's giving it their everything, and you know, anything we can do to make the boat go faster.
Team Akzo Nobel jibed away from the leading group and retook second position, but by the time they converged on the virtual waymark, they'd lost considerable ground to Mapfre.
Mapfre slipped away underneath us. We thought we were doing the right thing. We're pretty convinced that we were doing the right thing, but they must have gone still on the inside and cut around, and the ridge got richer basically. Hopefully it will happen the same to us.
And to rub salt into the wound, Dongfeng race team were now hard on their heels.
So Akzo Nobel is 1.3 miles now ahead of us. We have a gauge of 0.8 to leeward, and we are sailing 1.1, 1.2 knots faster. Same course now.
The last day at least we had a pretty close action with Dongfeng race team, so it's been rewarding and disappointing if you gain or lose ground, so you know, having them that close, it's a bit of a competition.
The fight for third spot was on the final stretch to Lisbon.
Basically we have 800 liters of ballast up to weather, and then a hose pops off. And now we have 800 liters to lure.
Despite Vestas 11th Hour Racing having earlier problems when nearly a ton of water leaked from their water ballast into the cabin, they kept their lead. The team showing that they were a well-honed unit. When Enright and Tal picked their crew, they were shrewd, including hiring Simon Fisher, the navigator from Abu Dhabi Ocean Racing, the team who won the last Volvo Ocean Race.
We like to think that we have all the right people involved, and when I say that, I mean we have all the right tools. You know, we feel like we have what it takes. It's just a matter of being efficient with our resources.
The dynamic and the handover of information, watch to watch, and particularly from Sci-Fi, the navigator, and Charlie, the skipper, has been it's been something we've been working on. It's been getting a lot better. We can see we've still got a lot to learn, and we'll continue to develop. But it's really nice to put in a strong showing at the beginning of the race, and I think we sailed well. We sailed quite smart, and we sailed quite confidently so far.
And then it's interesting to see what happened.
But there we've got less pressure. Coming into the race, we didn't have the most training, and definitely weren't the most prepared relative to some of the other teams, but we're in a really good spot. We're leading right now, and there's still a lot of racing to go, but the team's performed really well so far, and I think it's a good sign of what's to come.
Chasing Vestas 11th Hour Racing were Mapfre, but with a substantial advantage over the Spanish team, they'd have to make a huge mistake to lose their lead. With just 200 miles to the finish, Dongfeng's chasing of the leading pack finally paid off, and they took third spot from Akzo Nobel.
Managed to come back. So it's very positive. Of course, I'm happy to see that the team is strong and can come back from difficult situations.
To be fair to Dongfeng, they're fast, they're competitive, so we're just struggling to hang on, so just trying everything we can, really. Yeah, protect ourselves on the rest of the fleet.
It was a blow for Team Point and his team. At the back of the fleet, Team Brunel and Turn the Tide on Plastic were in their own duel not to be last.
Pretty cool, pretty intense, pretty close for like a couple of days now. About 400 metres in front of us.
We can make a bit of a gain and then lose again. It'd be nice to be able to stretch away from them, but we haven't been able to. So I think they're going to be with us all the way to the end, and we're just in front at the moment, so we're just got to hold this for the next 100 miles, and then we should have them, but they're not slow, that's for sure.
For the team who had sailed faultlessly during leg one, their hard work and tactical decision-making had paid dividends. Although the final few miles were nerve-wracking when the lack of wind and outgoing tide virtually stopped the boats dead coming into Lisbon, it was Vestas 11th Hour Racing, skippered by Charlie Enright, who took the well-deserved win.
You know, it meant a lot to us personally to win that last leg in the last race, and we didn't want to show signs of regression. So we figured we'd just keep it up.
We prepared well for the leg, and there were no real surprises. So, and when that happens, you kind of know you've done a good job.
Mafre were not far behind with a solid second.
We've said so many times that this time is going to be even tighter. It's a very good cruise in all the boats, and it's going to be very hard. So it's always good in a one design regatta to start with the second.
Dongfeng Race Team defended their hard-earned third spot to complete the podium, although Team Axonabel had an amazing race despite their circumstances with a fourth place.
A really difficult start for us. Then first nightmare and second day nightmare. Very big problem of speed. In Gibraltar we hit many things. We had to do a reverse for that, and after that we find the speed that Dongfeng was back, and we managed to come back slowly.
Sun Hunkai Scallywags stayed in the fifth spot that they had occupied for more than 700 miles and showed consistency. A good result for the Hong Kong-based team. And the dogfight at the back of the fleet remained tight all the way down to the wire, but it was Team Brunel who edged out Turn the Tide on Plastic. Leg one was over, and all the teams had gone head-to-head for the first time, but were the results of this short leg a good indication of form? The 7,000-mile leg two from Lisbon to Cape Town will surely be the true test of all-round ability in ocean racing as they face their toughest challenge to date as they head south into epic conditions.